A serial killer who used her medical knowledge to commit the ultimate betrayal. Her method. Not knives, not guns, but something far quieter and far deadlier. Insulin overdoses. And it would take exhumed bodies, reopened graves, and relentless investigators to finally expose her. Elfriede Blauensteiner was born in Vienna, Austria, in 1931. To outsiders, she lived what seemed like an ordinary life. She married, raised a son, and later worked as a nurse. Those who knew her would say she was stern and somewhat distant, but no one could have predicted the darkness festering beneath the surface. By the 1990s, Elfriede was a widow herself. She presented herself as a lonely woman looking for companionship, often frequenting senior clubs, church groups, and places where she could meet older men. She had the aura of a caregiver, someone trustworthy, someone who could brighten the last years of a man's life. But behind the warm exterior was a cold, calculating predator. Her victims were not random. Elfriede carefully chose older, wealthy men. She would strike up a relationship, charm them, and soon take over their daily lives. Cooking, managing their medications, and even handling their finances. Once she gained their trust, she'd begin manipulating legal documents, persuading her partners to alter their wills in her favor. Then, after securing her inheritance, she'd move on to the final stage of her plan: murder. Unlike many killers, Elfriede didn't rely on physical violence. Instead, she used her medical knowledge. She administered lethal overdoses of insulin or sedatives, drugs that could easily be mistaken for natural causes when her elderly victims suddenly passed away. One of her earliest suspected victims was her own stepfather, whose death was initially written off as natural. Later, her second husband, Friedrich, also died under suspicious circumstances. At first, doctors saw nothing unusual. But in time, investigators would connect the dots. Elfriede might have continued her deadly spree indefinitely if not for her greed. She became reckless, targeting one man after another, always ensuring that his will had been rewritten in her favor shortly before his death. By the mid-1990s, Austrian authorities began noticing the pattern. Men who had been relatively healthy were suddenly dying soon after entering relationships with Elfriede. And each time she seemed to come out of it wealthier. The real breakthrough came when families of some of her victims grew suspicious. They reported concerns to police, insisting that their loved ones had been manipulated. Investigators took a closer look and began reopening cases. The turning point came with the decision to exhume the bodies of several of Elfriede's past companions. Forensic experts examined the remains and found evidence of drugs that should not have been present in such high doses: sedatives and, most damning of all, insulin. These discoveries confirmed investigators' worst fears. Elfriede had been quietly poisoning her victims to death. One of the most telling cases was that of her second husband. His body, once thought to be at rest, revealed traces of lethal drugs. The same evidence appeared in other exhumed remains. Piece by piece, prosecutors built their case. By the time Elfriede went to trial, the Austrian media had already dubbed her the Black Widow, a nickname that stuck. Her trial in 2001 was a sensation, drawing massive public interest. The courtroom heard how Elfriede had manipulated wills, siphoned off money, and then disposed of her victims with chilling precision. Former friends and acquaintances testified about how she would laugh off suspicions or even brag about her financial windfalls after each death. Prosecutors described her as greedy, heartless, and calculating. But perhaps the most disturbing element was how she used her medical training to murder in such a silent, undetectable way. Ultimately, Elfriede Blauensteiner was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life in prison. Even behind prison walls, Elfriede never admitted full responsibility. She continued to deny some of the charges, painting herself as misunderstood, even as the evidence against her was overwhelming. But time caught up with her. In 2003, just 2 years into her life sentence, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. That same year, she died in prison at the age of 72. What made Elfriede so dangerous wasn't just her method, it was her motive. She wasn't killing out of passion, revenge, or compulsion. Her motive was pure greed. Every murder was a carefully calculated financial transaction. She targeted people she knew would leave her something behind: homes, savings, valuables. And she used one of the most trusted roles in society, that of a nurse and caregiver, to get close to her victims. In the end, investigators believed she may have been responsible for far more deaths than she was ever officially convicted of. Some estimates suggest up to 10 victims, maybe more. Today, Elfriede Blauensteiner is remembered as one of Austria's most notorious killers. Her case shook public trust in caregivers and highlighted how difficult it can be to detect murders committed with subtle medical methods. For the families of her victims, there was no true justice. Though she died in prison, the damage she caused, the lives stolen, the loved ones betrayed, could never be undone. Elfriede Blauensteiner's story is a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes it wears a friendly smile, offers a helping hand, and waits patiently for the moment to strike. She was a woman who turned care into cruelty, love into betrayal, and trust into a death sentence. The Black Widow of Vienna left behind a legacy of suspicion and fear, proving once again that sometimes, the most dangerous killers are the ones who hide in plain sight. Thank you for watching this chilling story of Elfriede Blauensteiner, Austria's Black Widow. What do you think drove her? Pure greed or something even darker? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next case. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest monsters don't hide in the dark, they hide in plain sight.